Welcome back to Fold in the Cheese. It's your boy K-Troll on the mic today, and this is going to be a fun one because we are previewing the wild card in the NFL playoffs, and we've got a couple of new competitions to talk about. So, I am joined today, as always, by the Newman to my Kramer.
When the cop stopped me, I told him that I was rushing home because my friend was about to commit suicide. Now, you're that friend. All we need is a reason why you were going to commit suicide.
I never had an air conditioner.
Ethan Gelfand, you are Newman. Newman.
Why am I
At least
Newman?
Newman and Kramer were buddies, though.
I was just going to say, when you said Kramer, at least that kind of made up for it a little bit, because obviously Newman and Jerry were rivals, nemesis, if you will.
Yep.
Newman, fine, whatever. It's only just because you get to do the lead-in. It's bullshit.
Pretty much. I write the script. Let's go. So I stalled my Seinfeld watching. It's been on hiatus. The last time I watched them was probably October. I watched like 10 of them on a plane trip. Just went crazy on it. So it's been a couple of months. Have not been progressing the adventure, but I'm probably I think I'm in season 4 at this point.
It starts really hitting its stride there. That's for sure.
It really is. And I will tell you, as I was pulling up trivia for you today, I was proud that I knew a lot of the references. I was like, okay, I get a bunch of these. Like, I've seen these episodes now, whereas previously, having only seen spotty, an episode here or there, always loved the show, but never watched it religiously. People would make references all the time. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't get that.
Well, it's funny because my wife was the same way. Like, she was not a Seinfeld watcher. And when it first came out on Hulu, that was like a big deal. Like, oh my gosh, all seasons of Seinfeld are streaming. Da, 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 da. But what was cool is that like Hulu gave a what was it? Kind of like an essentials package. So they said like watch these episodes to get.
Oh, I like that.
So Kirsten got through 2. She got through 2.
She got the essentials of the essentials package.
Yeah.
She's like, keep condensing. I mean, is there just a highlight reel that's like a 5-minute YouTube? I can get all of the Seinfeld knowledge.
All the Seinfeld references right now. But that just kind of speaks to her attention span. Still have not finished Hamilton because she got through 45 minutes. She's like, okay, I need like a break. I was like, my God, woman.
I'm completely baffled by this. I don't
Welcome
know how you can turn it off.
Welcome to mine and my kid's life trying to watch a movie. She is completely content with watching like 40 minutes. And they're like, all right, we'll watch some more. And I'm like, what? No, just let me finish a movie.
We have to do that if it's like nighttime when we start a movie. Like if we watch a movie at like 7:30, you start it or something, and they got to be in bed at 8:30 or something. I'm like, okay, we'll watch half of it tonight, half of it tomorrow. But we'll finish the other half the next day. But if it's like a weekend or something, and we're crashing like 3 p.m. to watch a movie, like we're watching the movie. Unless the kids call time, we're not the ones calling time on it.
My kids will never call time when a movie is involved or TV shows involved. Never. Which is a blessing and a curse. I mean, I don't know as much as a curse, actually. It's more of a blessing because like on big road trips or like on flights, granted, they've only been on a couple flights in their lives, but they're completely content just watching a movie and, they don't lose interest. My daughter, when we took our big trip to Hawaii this past summer, like those are long flights. She was content watching the same 2 movies over and over again. All right. More power to you, I guess.
Whatever keeps you quiet and keeps you happy, and that's fine with me. We've got one that would lock in, and our son would probably either watch continuous movies or videos or whatever. He would, as long as he's got a device or a screen in front of him, he's happy as long as you'll let him do it.
Yeah.
The other one gets a little restless. She'll do it for a bit, and then she might be like, okay, entertain me now. Here. So like a 7-hour flight would be pretty brutal with her.
Yeah.
I don't think that's really in the cards anytime soon.
The only thing that was brutal for Brady was that he has the bladder the size of a peanut. So it's just getting up and going to and trying
to. He probably loved the bathroom on the airplane. He's probably like, this is cool. It's a Brady-sized bathroom.
He's like, Dad, this is really small. I'm like, yeah, I know. Let's hurry this up. Let's hurry this up.
Really both fit in here. This is tough. That's funny. Yeah. All right. Well, today we're going to preview the wild card round in the playoffs. We got a lot to cover here as far as injury updates and the news. We're going to pick the games. Each of us are going to pick the games. Didn't tell you that. Surprise, you're picking the winners today. But
Here we
We've
go.
created a new challenge as well. We've got the NFL challenge, the NFL playoff challenge, where we're gonna pick a roster and stick with it throughout the playoffs. And then I have created my own parlay challenge as well,
Hey,
prop bet challenge, because ESPN stopped doing pigskin pick'em playoff, pigskin playoff pick'em. They don't do it this year, so
I know.
that's
So
garbage.
dumb. It was so great. And as we just found out, I finished 700th in the world last year. So I wanted
That
to.
is actually really insane. That is insane.
I
Because
wanted
I
to.
finished like 15,000th and I was still in the 96th percentile. It wasn't like 10,000 people played this thing, you know?
Right. I was
It's really,
99.8th
700 is impressive.
percentile. And I finished 700th. And I wanted to regain my belt if there's a
That's
700th place
insane.
belt. It's on a curve.
That is insane. So let's cover some news around the league first, and then we'll get to the game previews. I think the biggest news, kind of to recapture what we talked about the last week, DeMar is back home. He flew back to Buffalo on Monday, I think. Stayed a few days in the hospital there. He's been discharged. He's fully out of the hospital, which
Wild.
is insane. I
Yeah.
mean, insane. You can only imagine the boost that's going to give the Bills having their brother on the sideline if he can go to the game, or at least knowing, he's
That he's
visited the
back.
locker room, whatever. Like he's been around people. They know he's good. Like incredible. So
Yeah.
unreal story. That one needs a movie for sure, I think.
Needs something for sure.
On the opposite end of things, Tua is still in concussion protocol. I mean, this is like weeks ago that he was knocked out of the game, or actually wasn't knocked out of the game. He's in protocol after the game. And I don't know.
That
I
was
think there's serious
self-reported
questions
too,
about his
wasn't it?
future.
He self-reported those symptoms, right? And that's why he got into protocol. Yeah.
Yep, because there wasn't one major play that they
No.
necessarily pinpointed. Like they saw, going back through all of it, I think Adam Schefter tweeted something about like, hey, this is probably the play where it happened. His head hit the turf as he was getting tackled, but it wasn't like someone hit him or that there was like a clearly vicious hit.
Right.
Just, I mean, it's scary for him because this is like second time in protocol, but really 3 of these in the span of like 6 weeks, So,
and that's where I feel like those are the concussions that are scarier, where it's not a clear, evident play. It's more of just like the mileage and the hits that you just continuously are getting. And I don't know, I'm going to make up a number, but I was just listening to the radio and they were talking about how many concussions go undiagnosed for a couple of reasons. One, again, it's those hits you don't even notice it, that like, no, actually that was. And two, players are not necessarily reporting it because they don't want to be held out and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's kind of a double-edged sword that's not good.
you
But
can
yeah,
only
the
imagine.
ones that you don't see like the ones with the vicious hits, like, yep, that's a concussion. Like those are, but it's the ones that kind of go unseen. Like, oh dang, actually, turns out that you should have been held out. So yeah, not good.
Yeah, I can tell you, I know it's a lot more prevalent now in all levels of sports. When I played very small time high school football, I can remember one time when a kid in practice got his bell. We called it "get your bell rung." Got his bell rung, and the coach just made him like sit on the hill and watch practice for a while. He was just like dazed, kind of, probably concussion. But during the game and stuff, like I don't know, guys probably, you're hitting people, you're colliding full speed, like it's gonna phase you a little bit. But I
Right.
certainly never had any head injuries, thankfully. I don't remember anyone on our team that like got knocked out of a game. We never had like thankfully never had like a stretcher come out and take anybody off or anything like that. But
Yeah, no good.
I'm sure there were guys, you're sitting there in the trenches, you're hitting your heads. We had one guy who was like a lineman. His go-to move was to headbutt the other team. You're like, that guy, who knows? Who knows what that guy had to deal with right now? Like,
Who knows?
who knows? But it's a really good thing that the league is much more adept at identifying these kind of situations and trying to prevent them. But it also, with more awareness, comes us seeing it a lot more often and us being more like, oh my gosh, this is freaking dangerous,
Yeah.
So sucks for Tua. Hope he gets better. Would love to see him. Oh, I just hope he's like healthy for next year and ready to go and can still play football if that's something he wants to do.
Just get
it worries me. It worries me that he's, I don't know. This is a weird situation.
Yeah, very weird.
Lamar Jackson still questionable. He's not practicing. Tyler Huntley's not throwing. I guess he's got like tendonitis in his shoulder or elbow. Like they're a mess right now. And
a huge mess.
I will tell you, the rumors are swirling right now because they just signed Roquan Smith to like a huge contract, largest contract in linebacker history or something. And people were like, wait a second, you were supposed to be holding that money back for Lamar because he was holding out for a big deal. And so you got to wonder, like, what does that mean? Number one, does it mean is he not going to be there next year?
Oh,
but then if it does mean that, does that mean they're not going to play him because they don't want to get him hurt, like Derek Carr with Vegas,
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you'd asked me earlier in the year, he was definitely going to be back in Baltimore. Obviously, the way he started the first half of the season, MVP caliber. I mean, he was playing unreal, and he was doing it without any weapons around him, and he was still having a great season. Obviously, so he's betting on himself, and looked like that bet was paying off. Then you get hurt. Then your chips start to get pulled back because as you're making this bet, it's starting like, nope, it's kind of showing that you are susceptible to injury and that this is why we didn't pay you, because we're worried about this kind of thing. So honestly, it's a 50-50 toss-up. And honestly, if I had to make a gut call right now, I would say he will not be back in Baltimore next year, just because, as you said, they just made this big sign with Roquan Smith. And, can you dish out this amount of money for a guy who is now, the type of style he plays? This is going to be more common, that he'll face more injuries like this. I mean, the amount of hits they were talking about him taking in his first couple of years were off the charts in terms of any comparison to any other quarterback. So do you really want to invest long-term in a guy who's going to be hit, who's getting hit the most? And granted, is a very talented runner, pretty good passer, but durability is then going to become a factor. And you ask one Kyle Seager, no running quarterback has ever won a Super Bowl, has ever really maintained that long-term success. I mean, Cam Newton, as you said, was probably the last one of his kind, and he was 3 years removed from an MVP and then out of the league. So
yeah,
I don't see him.
The other guys,
but
go ahead, finish. I don't want to cut you off.
No, that was it. Basically saying I don't see him being back in Baltimore. He's going to get paid, just it's going to be somewhere else.
I think the other guys that started their careers as more runners have progressively run less and less. So I think of like Russell Wilson early in his career was like a pretty lethal runner as well. He didn't do like a ton of designed runs, but he'd do a few a game, and he'd also scramble a lot. Even Mahomes used to run a lot more than he does now. Yeah. He still runs like a chicken. Like he runs kind of wild, and but he throws it. I mean, he doesn't run that often. But Tannehill, I think of Tannehill, Daniel Jones still runs a good amount. Tannehill doesn't run hardly at all anymore. I mean, I don't know, Rodgers. I don't know, Tony. That's if you have not seen that clip on Twitter, it's. I thought it was.
You thought it was real.
Jim Nance. Yeah, I thought it was Jim Nance. It's in our last episode. I thought it was Jim Nance, but
he's got wide open space, but he usually tumbles around the 20. Yep, and there he goes.
And there he goes. Yep, you don't want to leave that much open field in front of you. It's confusing depth perception. Fantastic, Frank Caliendo. But so my thing is like, Lamar's not going to be a backup quarterback somewhere. No. So, and these guys never end up being backups anywhere. So where's he going to go? Someone's going to take a shot and be like, all right, he's going to be our starter.
Yeah.
It's got to be a team that has a competent backup, though. A team that's got a good enough second guy. That's the only thing you really need to make sure of when you have these guys on your roster, is that you have another one. Either, like I would say, ideally, you've got two running quarterbacks, so you don't have to change your system when one guy goes down. But if you don't, at least have like a good, competent second guy. And that's all it really takes, because I don't know, like a lot of quarterbacks will miss a game or two throughout the season. Now that the league is becoming so run heavy in the quarterback position, a lot of guys are going to miss a game or two. Right. Lamar missing like 4 games, though, is a different story. And so if he's frequently missing more in like the 4 to 6 range, that's a problem. Where do you think he's going to go? Do you have any thoughts?
Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I mean, they got some weapons around him. Another stud running back in Jonathan Taylor. You got some Pittman pieces. I mean, it'd be a good spot for him. I can see that. And, Indy's going to be on their 7th quarterback in 7 years, so might as well make it a big one. Hopefully for.
What about the Jets? What about the Jets dumping Zach Wilson, taking him?
I mean, possible. Definitely has some air weapons there. Yeah.
The problem with Indy is they have like the number 3 pick. So
true.
And they're likely to draft a quarterback. But yeah, they're not wrong. That could work.
We'll see.
All right. So let's get to some game previews for the weekend. We've got Saturday games, Sunday games, and a Monday game. Just the way we like it.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Just the way your mother likes it, as Milton would say. There's a throwback for you.
There it is.
There's a 15+ year throwback.
Suck it.
All right, Saturday, we've got the Seahawks at the 49ers. Let's go. Look at this. 12th man, Aaron Curry. Let's go.
Curry. Look at that jersey. That is just sharp. What's crazy is there are, I guess it's only 2 matchups. No, 2 matchups where the home team has beaten the away team twice already. And the the old saying is it's hard to beat a team 3 times. And so
Yep.
now you got the Seahawks, Niners, and then we'll talk about Monday, boys and Bucks. But the Seahawks and Niners, first of all, this is going to sound blasphemous, but Pete Carroll should obviously be getting some votes for Coach of the Year, because honestly, if you had said at the beginning of the year the Seahawks were making the playoffs, like, wait, did they not make the Russell Wilson trade? Is he still there?
Right.
So the fact that they're there is spectacular. Geno Smith, comeback player of the year, or whatever the heck it should be called. So just to be here is spectacular. But again, no one really wanted them there. It's not a very sexy pick, but whatever. Everyone wanted them Lions. So I'm going to go with the Niners here, just because they've been steamrolling the second half of the year. They plug and play whoever it is at quarterback. It don't matter. They're a well-tuned system right now. Brock has shown he's completely capable. He doesn't need to be the superstar because he's got all those guys around him, all those tools. And when you got a number one defense, that helps as well. So I'm going to go with the Niners to pull off the 3-game sweep, and got the Seahawks.
Did the Bills-Dolphins split this season, or
They did split? The Dolphins actually stole one.
Okay, and then Ravens-Bengals split. So there's no other setup like this. So that does make me nervous. And Pete Carroll, schematically, is a good coach. He does some weird stuff, but he's he's able to put his team in position to win. I think that GM deserves GM of the year 100%. He's the one who got like 1 million draft picks and money for Russell Wilson. So good on him. I just don't see. I don't see any way they beat the Niners. I think the Niners are freaking on fire right now, and I don't know. I got to go Niners, but it does make me nervous that teams don't often win 3 games against the same team.
It does. The last time they played was week 15, and it was 21-13, which is a pretty close game. But the Seahawks scored in the last 3 minutes to make it, because it was 21-6. But it's a classic kind of this Niners team. It's Brock Purdy goes for 202 touchdowns. McCaffrey goes for 100 on the ground, and it's the defense. Yep. They're basing it on their defense. And so I just don't get me wrong. Geno Smith has had a spectacular year. And again, I'm always going to reference some Gridiron Heights in the Bleacher Report web series. But when they showed the MVP race, and it was all about like fighter planes and a plane race, he was on a glider. It's like, Gino, he can't keep that up. I know. So I just feel like, I don't know if he has enough left in the tank. They barely made it in. They had to struggle to beat the Rams, and now they're going to go to San Francisco. I don't see it happening.
This Niners team reminds me of the one that was in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. It's got the same makeup. I think McCaffrey's even better than Mostert. But they've got a dangerous running back who's hot right now. You've got receiving weapons. You still got Kittle, obviously, and then the defense is just.
It also kind of reminds me of that second Peyton Manning Bronco team, not the one where they had the great offense, but this was the one where they had the great defense, about like Von Miller, and where Peyton really didn't do much that game in the
noodle arm. He couldn't throw the ball more than 20 yards.
Yeah, but the defense carried him, and I kind of see that here. Like again, Brock Purdy, he can make plays. He's been doing great at what he's been asked to do, but he's not going to try and beat you downfield, anything like that. So I kind of see those similarities as well.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going Niners as well on that one.
All right. Now we got your AFC South champion hosting the Chargers, man. What are you going to see there?
This is the only game that's tough. Well, I guess there's 2 games that are tough for me to pick. And honestly, there's one that I'm going to be surprisingly on the fence about.
Yeah. But
this game is tough. This is really tough because these are both kind of like upstart teams that finally they're excited to be there. I love the Jags get to host this game, and they already played once, and the Jaguars stomped the Chargers in LA, which surprised everybody, right? This is sort of what put them on the map. This game was the one that put them on the map for the season. It's been a bumpy road since then for both these teams, but they're both here, and they've both made it, and I think they're both pretty healthy, so you should see a good, I think that Chargers team didn't have Mike Williams or Keenan. One of them wasn't in, just kind of a different team.
It was week 3, but still.
It was week 3, but in the first half of the season, they lost like their whole team. So they were a different team at that time. And it's also, week 3 is a different team. Even if they were all healthy, it's a different team now. So I want to see the Jags pull this out. I really do. And I'm rooting for them. And I'm just going to pick them because I just want them to win it. I think the Chargers are going to be tough to handle, man. I think a healthy Chargers team is going to be a lot to handle for the Jags. But I like the story, and I'm going to keep riding. Whoever wins this game is going to freaking Kansas City, so it doesn't matter.
True. It's a fun one. Again, as you said, it's two young teams, it's two young quarterbacks, first time in the playoffs. Two big name quarterbacks, which is exactly finally what the NFL wanted. And finally the Chargers made the playoffs. Everyone wants to see what Justin Herbert can do. But I think, as you said, the Chargers are getting healthy, and they're getting healthy at the right time. And I know actually Brandon Staley got a little heat because he played his starters probably longer than he should have, or if at all, against Denver. And Mike Williams obviously got kind of re-injured a little bit. But with Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Herbert, I mean, Gerald Everett's kind of shaky, but yeah, I just think that's going to be too many weapons. And I know the Jaguars curb stomped him way early in the season. And the Jaguars, as you said, they're both different teams from their week 3 matchup. I've liked what I've seen out of the Jaguars. I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to give the slight edge to the Chargers just based on the full talent around them. I mean, Khalil Mack on defensive end, just to kind of, you got some better playmakers. I do love Josh Allen on the Jags. He's a beast, but I'm just going to give the slight edge to the Chargers.
Yeah, Derwin James. I don't think J.C. Jackson, is he done for the year? Is he back now? I don't remember.
J.C. Jackson hadn't played since like week 4.
I knew he was out early. I didn't know if he was coming back or not. You don't hear much. You don't hear a lot of updates on defensive players.
Yeah, right.
The Jags defense has been playing better, I will say, and so don't be surprised if this is a lower scoring 24-21 or below kind of game. I mean, it could end up being like a 17-14 kind of game. These are two capable offenses, but two good defenses too. I don't know. I think it's a coin flip for me.
Okay.
I'm going Duval. Let's go. All right. Sunday, first game up. The Dolphins with Skylar Thompson will be traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Who you got here?
I got the Bills, man. I mean,
this is going to be an absolute beatdown.
If the Dolphins, the Dolphins had to beat the Jets 9-6 to make the playoffs. You can't do that against Buffalo in Buffalo. Everything that's been going on with their team, you're done. Miami
steamrolling. Yeah, I got to take the Bills here easy as well. In a lot of these cases, you'd say like, "Oh, it's like a 10-point underdog. Like, don't count a team out like that." I'm like, they just don't have. Skylar Thompson can't get it done for them. They just don't have the firepower to keep up without Tua. If Tua were back and they were full strength, I'd say this would be a great shootout. This would be a shootout. This would be a good game. Unfortunately, he ain't coming back.
All right. Here's the one that it's an interesting one. The Giants and the Vikes. Just because. Anyway, I know you're up first, so I'm going to shut my mouth and save it.
I think we're on the same page here, man. I'm really surprisingly on the fence about this one because the Giants have no good players other than Saquon, and yet they're finding a way to win. These two teams played earlier, and the Vikings had to kick a last-second field goal to win.
That was my sneaky upset. Remember, I was like, "What? Giants are going to take this one," and they almost got it. Ugh.
So the Vikings beat the Bills in a last-second field goal as well. Other than that, they have not beaten a single good team all year. I went back and looked through their schedule. Every time they play a good team, they lose. Every team they beat is like the Saints and crappy teams like that. So the Bills is the only impressive win they have. Yeah. So I'm really nervous about the Vikings here. I really am. I would not put money on this one for them. I don't have any faith that they can get this done. They should win, and it's at home, which I like. They should win. They've got the weapons. I think Hawkinson has made this offense tremendously better because Thielen has sort of fallen off. And I think KJ Osborne has been blossoming, So that's really nice to see. Jefferson lit up the Giants last time they played. I'm curious to see if they figure out a different scheme for him this time around. So I'm going to go Vikings, but I'm extremely hesitant. And it's more because I want the ladder to play out a certain way. You know what I mean? Like they reseed in the NFL. So if the Giants win, they'll go to Philly, whereas if the Vikings win, they'll go, assuming the Niners win, they'll go see the 49ers. So
to kind of double down your point, the Vikings beat 3 playoff teams this year, and one of them was the Dolphins, one of them was the Bills, and then the other was the Giants. So of the playoff teams they beat, obviously the Bills being the outlier. But the Giants on the flip side only beat 2, and one being the Jags, and one being, I just had it, but it wasn't like a groundbreaking one. So yeah, and it's a tale of two seasons in the sense that the Vikings looked and seemed like on paper one of the top teams in the league, but then when you really did a deep dive, it was kind of like, are they though? And they kind of showed that at the end of the season. At the end of the season, it's like they're really not. But as you mentioned, with the Giants, it's Saquon. It's a surprising Daniel Jones. Did he earn a long-term deal in New York now? I mean, they're just like, damn it, do we really have to now invest
Pay
in
this guy
Daniel Jones?
now.
But the one thing about the Giants is while they did win a good amount of games this year, they were super close, and it was just those grind them out games. It's just not
Both these
pretty.
teams, though, honestly.
You
Most
said
most
what?
of the, I mean, the Vikings had like something like 6 fourth quarter or overtime field goals to
They did.
win, kind of thing, like a ton of field goals like that.
My one big difference is that with the Vikings, they have an opportunity for offensive explosions. They have that capability where the Giants
Yep.
do not. And so that would be the one thing that concerns me if you're a Giants fan, is that if the score starts getting up there, it's like, oh crap, we don't have that explosiveness. We don't have the 2-3 play drive capability to score quick. So that's why I'm just going to give the slight edge to the Vikings, just purely based on that. Obviously, they showed they could come back from 33-0. Granted, this is a much better team than those Colts. But just the fact that they have those weapons in their holster, if they need them to in that kind of style, I think that'll give them the slight edge.
Unless Matt Ryan steps out on that field, you're not going to need that kind of a comeback. Okay, so yeah, I agree. I'm nervous about this one for the Vikings. I don't think their playoff future is very long, but I do think they can squeeze this one out. How about the Ravens with Anthony Brown at the helm taking on the Bengals in Cincy?
Bengals are getting dangerous, man. I'm going Bengals, and again, no Lamar, you're done. Kudos for them for getting 10 wins, but no,
I will say, like, it's definitely not conspiracy, but it is coincidence that the Bills and Bengals basically get a bye and they're going to play each other next week. Like, it's the game everyone wants to see.
Yeah,
everyone wants to see that game again. And so it's interesting. Obviously, the whole season played out for them to line up this way, and injuries happen. And I really don't think there's conspiracy there at all. But it is going to be. It's a perfect story. Which the NFL is going to be pretty happy about.
Yeah. Don't mess it up, Bengals and Bills.
Don't screw it up. Don't overlook your opponent. I mean, that's true. Yeah. You don't overlook anybody. Seriously, it's the NFL. These guys are all good. Don't overlook anybody. But I think the Bills and Bengals they're both absolutely steamrolling right now, and they are on a collision course that I'm excited to see personally. Okay. All right, so I'll take the Bengals as well.
I'll take the Bengals as well.
In other news, I'll take the Bengals. All right, how about Monday Night Football? We've got the Cowboys traveling to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. This one is anybody's guess, man. And don't tell me otherwise.
No, not even close. I mean, you really can't figure out the Bucs. You just can't. And then the same to a slightly lesser degree, you can't figure out the Cowboys. How do you throw up that stinker against the Commanders in the last game of the season?
With all your starters playing.
With all your starters playing. And, I was listening as I was driving my dog to the vet this morning. I was listening to some ESPN radio, and they're talking like, if the Cowboys lose this game, should Mike McCarthy be fired? And they're like, no, of course not. He's what led the team to 2 straight 12 game seasons and all that. But then someone said, if he doesn't get to the NFC Championship game, he's fired. So anyway, the Cowboys are your more volatile team in the sense that you wonder if that starts to play in their heads, that they have all this pressure. They haven't been playoff relevant since 1996 or 1995. Does that start creeping up in there, and all the chatter about Dak and is he the guy and da-da-da-da. But man, I don't know what to make of this Bucs team, just because they haven't shown anything good this year. They stumble into the playoffs. Basically, you're saying we have Tom Brady. Hopefully that's enough, because they have the tools, but why didn't they use them all year? Man, I don't know. You know what? I'm just going to be a complete homer pick. And just because I don't like the boys anyway, I'm going to go Bucs, just because there's something about playoff Brady. There's something about being at home. But here's the other, and he's undefeated against the Cowboys in his life. 7-0.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that true?
7-0.
I will tell you, man, this has been the year when all of his records have broken, though. Like, he is not only he's broken some records, of course, but also all the stuff that you've said about him forever, about never had a 4-game losing streak or never had a season where he lost more than he won or whatever. Like, this has been the year.
It's all
been the one where you started to see the slightest chink in the armor, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't have any faith in him and this team But to your point, I also don't have faith in the Cowboys. Like I have faith in neither of these teams. They could both be in the Super Bowl. They could both somehow lose this game. I don't know how. They could both lose. I don't. It just it's ugly football, and it's not what you expect from the names on the field.
Right.
You have so many names out there. These are high octane offenses that are not high octane. It's crazy. And both the defenses are really good too. At times. Then again, they can get absolutely steamrolled by somebody. So like, I don't know. I've flip flopped on this game a million times, man. And I think ultimately I'm gonna side with you and say I think the Bucs will get it done. But I do agree if they can't win this game, like I do agree because of the job itself, he's got to go. Too much pressure on this particular. There's too much conversation about Dallas every year for them to not be better.
Every year.
Every week, every year. I mean, for them to not be better. They have the talent now. They've got their guy, the quarterback that everyone is polarized on, but people say, like, if this is your guy, you should be winning games in the playoffs. Right. Until then, he's freaking Andy Dalton, like great, you can get there. Great, you can win 10 to 12 games every year, but if you can't win in the playoffs, what good is it? So
quick stat correction on my fault. I said that there were 2 games where one team has won 2 already. I mistakenly said it was this one. Granted, the Bucs beat them earlier in the season, but I was referring to in my head that Brady is undefeated against them in his life.
Yeah.
So I apologize, listeners. That was a misnomer on my
I knew it was a mistake and I let it slide.
I appreciate that. Didn't want to humiliate me on the air.
I want you to look like an idiot, but now you do. So I'm going to go Bucs as well.
Oh, you are? Okay.
I don't feel great about it, but I'm going to go Bucs as well.
I honestly kind of just don't want to see Cowboys Eagles just because of like too much talk. Anyway, yeah, let's go Bucs. Let's go.
And that would be a tough game to pick too, honestly. And then again, if the Giants pull it off, they go to the Eagles. Who knows?
True.
Too much NFC East. Like I was excited about them all being good at one point. And now I'm like, I don't want any of you. I don't want any of you in the playoffs. Get out of here.
I don't want any of these teams in the playoffs.
Okay, let's switch gears. So we've started this pool on NFL.com. I've been doing this for years, probably 10, 12 years. And they've got a playoff challenge called the NFL.com Playoff Challenge. We have a group. It's called the Pool Boys. If you want to join the group, jump in there. It's free and it's a public group. So we'd love to have you. But basically, the premise is, we talked about this last year, but the premise is you pick your roster for the playoffs, and you have to pick strategically because the longer your players last in the pool, the more their points are amplified. For instance, if they make it to the second round, all the points they earn in the second round are doubled. If they make it to the third round, which is the conference championship round, all the points they earn in that round are tripled. And if they make it to the Super Bowl, all the points they earn in that round are 4x. So ideally, in a perfect world,
I'd like to call BS on you right now. You've been doing this for 10 to 12 years. You only just invited me last year. What a jerk.
I wasn't sure I liked you until last year.
What a jerk.
So, there you go. But the idea is, in a perfect world, the 2 teams that are going to the Super Bowl, and you just stack your roster with those players. So if you're like, it's definitely going to be Philadelphia and Kansas City, you would go ahead and play those teams. And you would even know that first week you're not going to get any points because they're both on a bye. But then they get double the next week, triple the next week, quadruple the last week. The problem is we don't know who's going to end up in the Super Bowl. So you kind of have to play this game where you either mix them up a little bit or you go all in on 2 teams and hope. And some of that depends on the size of your pool. We'll see what we ended up doing here. We're going to reveal our rosters. We talked about it beforehand. I said maybe we shouldn't. Too many listeners. They're going to take our picks and manipulate them against us. But Ethan has decided to just give away free information. So here you go. And with that, I'm going to let you start with your quarterback.
I'd just like to also shout out MVP Joe Mixon last year. Even though I hate him, I picked him. I don't know why I picked. I think even as I picked it, I was like, ugh, why did I do that? And he ends up making it all the way to the Super Bowl. So it gets me 4 times the picks. 4 times the points. So that worked. It's funny. I'll say as I reveal my whole team, I kind of did this foolishly, but here we go. Quarterback from the Buffalo Bills, one Josh Allen. So I know you can, first of all, you can start people on their bye. It's a safe way to ensure that so if you wanted a Chief or an Eagle, you could play them and you would get automatic double points in the second round. Obviously, you'd get a big goose egg for the first, but it's a strategy. You're going to ensure it. So it was a toss up for me between Mahomes and Allen, and I just went with Allen, hoping that they would both see themselves in the AFC Championship game, and I would hopefully get that additional points for this week. So I went with Josh Allen.
Yeah. I don't hate that pick at all. I went with Mahomes.
Yeah,
And for me, the biggest concern is the Bills-Bengals game next week, and not knowing who's going to come out of that game really put a damper on my lineups because, I mean, Allen could lose next week to Burrow, we've seen him in the playoffs. He can get hot and he can win. If they lose that game, then now you've only got 2 weeks of Josh Allen. Now that's a good thing. You get 2 weeks. Whereas I feel like Mahomes pretty much locked in to be in the AFC Championship.
He's
going to get a bye this week. I get double points next week, and they're going to be against either the Jags or the Chargers, who they will absolutely crush. And then he's going to be in the AFC Championship. So I'm going to get double and I think triple points out of him at least. And at that point, I'm like, I'll take my chances that maybe the Chiefs can beat either the Bengals or the Bills. Because I don't know who's going to win between the Bengals and the Bills, I went ahead and hedged my bets and just said Mahomes.
There you go.
But to your point, I get a 0 this week.
Mahomes has been in the last 3 AFC Championship games, so it's a pretty good bet.
They have an easy path this year. I think I'll be there.
Yeah. All right. Running back 1. I went with 1 Christian McCaffrey. Just because Niners, once again, not a bye, but I figure they're probably going to be at least in the NFC Championship game. So I figured he would be a good horse.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also went with McCaffrey. He was 80% started in this pool. That's like worldwide, 80% started. He and Saquon Barkley are the 2 marquee names at running back in this playoff. So, and if you don't have faith in the Giants, which we've already well established, then I think McCaffrey's a smart pick.
All right, here's kind of my Joe Mixon pick for this year. I don't know if I made a wise one, and you might scoff at me. I actually went with Austin Eckler, thinking that he could win. He should win. I picked the Chargers, and then you know what? Crazy things have happened. If they could somehow upset the Chiefs, or at least if he just has a good game, that's kind of my wild card in there. I know you mentioned like the Saquon as being the other kind of marquee name, but if they don't win, you get him for 1 week, and it might not even be a great week. I feel like Austin Eckler, he's a focal point of that offense. Get me some big points. Maybe sneak out a win in the second one. Could be my Joe Mixon this year.
Well, and to your point, like if you get 30 points from him this week and he doubles, and if they win and he goes to the Chiefs, even if they lose, you could get 20, 30 points out of him, and that doubles. And you might have enough points just from those 2 weeks that you're set. And what happens, by the way, once your guy loses and their team loses, you just replace him with a different player.
And they just go back down to single points. Yeah.
To 1x and 2x. So like that's really not a bad strategy at all. I toyed around with him in a different pool that I'm doing. The other option here, I think you could look at Miles Sanders if you think the Eagles are going to go.
I looked at him.
I think he'd be a good option too. I actually went similar to Mahomes. I went Jerick McKinnon.
Kind of the same. It's funny because I toyed with McKinnon for a second. I was like, man, like he's been on fire the past 3-4 games. I thought about it, but I couldn't pull the trigger. But all right,
yeah.
So you're going heavy Chiefs.
I get it. Right. So I'm going with the Chiefs there. I got McKinnon. Same rationale as before, which is double and triple points next week and the week after. And I didn't love of the teams that I think are going to be in the final 4 or even final like 6-ish range. I didn't love the running backs from the other ones. Like Mixon, I think would be a good pick here again. But I'm scared of the Bills matchup next week. So I don't know.
Okay.
All right. Give me your first receiver.
Wide receiver 1. Pairing him up with Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs.
Stephon Diggs, yeah. So I also went with Stephon Diggs. This is one where I know, and we'll get to it in our wide receiver too, but like I'm going to lose somebody at some point, unless you go with 2 teams and just hope that they make it, you're going to lose people. So I'm willing to take Diggs in the chance that I have exposure to the Bills now in case they do make it to the Super Bowl. I didn't want to leave them out entirely.
So kind of on that flip side for my wide receiver 2, I'm going to lose him. One of these 2, I went with Jamar Chase just because he's going to be there for at least 2 games. And he could put up some big numbers. The thing is, Jefferson's probably the best receiver in this playoff, but they might not make it past game 1. And so it's not worth for me. So I went with Jamar.
So I'm in another pool where you're like, they don't get multiple points week after week. And you can replace a few players after 2 weeks, and you can replace a couple players after like right before the Super Bowl. And so I took Jefferson in that pool because I'm like, maybe it's 1 game. Hopefully it's 2 games out of him, knowing that I'm probably going to replace him. He's such a stud. I agree. Wouldn't be a bad, honestly, if they do make a splash, whoever has him is going to win this thing. So that's one of those like gambles. If you're in a big pool of people, then that would be a good move. I went with Jamar as well. I want some exposure to one of these guys will make it to the AFC Championship. I feel pretty certain. And so at that point, you're hoping, again, you're kind of hedging. Like if the Bengals make it to the Super Bowl again, at least I've got Jamar getting 4X,
Sure. All right. Here, I think we're going to have the same tight end, but I went with the bye, and I went with Travis Kelce. I'm sure you did too, just because he got old Mahomie.
Yeah, I took Kelce as well. This was actually a real toss-up for me, though, because I think George Kittle would be a really good option here. And so those are, to me, the two best options. I think
Kittle's
Dawson Knox is an outside chance.
I love me some George Kittle, but he's frustrating, especially as a fantasy owner. When I had him 2 years ago, he could have 30-point games, and he also have 3-point games, and that was the only kind of thing that frustrated me a little bit with him. So I just went with the sure thing at Kelce.
Brock Purdy loves him.
It does.
I'll tell you that. It's to me, it's the uncertainty of the NFC playoffs, and like what I mean by that is like if somehow the Giants beat the Vikings, the Giants go to Philly, the Niners get the Cowboys or the Bucs, like as we've mentioned, those two teams are so unpredictable. Either one of them could beat the Niners. I don't think they will, but they could beat the Niners. And if they do, then you're screwed if you went with Kittle. Whereas, again, I think the Chiefs have got to basically abide to the AFC Championship. And in doing that, you've locked up 3X points for Travis Kelce, who is the best tight end of the game anyway. So,
sure.
I think that's the right move.
It's the right move. It's the right move.
That being said, who you got, kicker and defense?
Going fishing with Tyler Bass. Tyler Bass, my kicker. I went Bills heavy, man. I went 3 Bills.
You sure did.
And then defense, I went with the Niners.
Okay. Well, I went with Robbie Gould as my kicker for the Niners, and then I went with the Niners defense as well. To me, I think the Niners are the cream of the NFC, and I think in my mind, I'm probably seeing the Niners and the Chiefs, Bills, Bengals is, man, that's a freaking dogfight. But if I'm thinking who is the one team in my mind most likely to make it to the Super Bowl right now, I think it's the Niners.
Oh, okay.
Because of the AFC being so crowded, I think the Chiefs are a lock for the championship, but then you got to play the Bills or the Bengals, and that's a complete toss-up.
True. Yeah.
So for me, I think the Niners can beat any team in the NFC.
Yeah. As I was looking at my team, I was like, I only have 2 NFC players, and one's my defense, and the other's Christian McCaffrey. Granted, they're both the same team, so I did that right. But
That's true.
I went very AFC heavy, which could bite me in the butt. Very interesting that no Eagles were chosen, as they are the number 1 seed. Could have been a Jalen Hurts, could have been an AJ Brown, even like a Dallas Goedert, but nothing.
They make me nervous, man.
They do.
They make me nervous. They also barely beat the Giants last week of the season with the Giants.
I'm sorry to bring up still wounds, but the Titan. I mean, it's kind of like a number 1 seed of the Titans last year. It's kind of that they're the 1 seed, and at times they look dominant, but not lately. And so it's just like, so surprised yet not surprised. No Eagles were chosen.
Yeah, that is interesting. Someone will take some Eagles, and that could be a great pick because they are the freaking number 1 seed, which means you're guaranteed double points next week. And so, like, if they could just win 1 game, you're guaranteed double and triple points. I mean, it's a smart move, but we'll see. We'll see. We like to think we know better. Speaking of knowing better, let's get to some trivia.
Some Seinfeld trivia.
We have a little banner for this, don't we? Trivia time. Let's go.
Trivia time.
Okay, so as I mentioned, these are all episodes that either I have seen or I've heard you reference, or there was one I didn't know at all, but I'm sure you'll probably know it. So we'll see how we go.
It's actually kind of bad. Like there was a time where, and granted, this is like before streaming, that I would just watch Seinfeld just because it was always on. I'd watch it like every day, just 1 or 2 episodes, just because it was always on TNT or whatever it may be. Yep. But I probably haven't sat down to watch a full episode in, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years.
Wow.
It's just so ingrained in there, hopefully.
Yeah, you watch them over and over again. Syndication, that was the way back in the day. That was like
the way.
Once you got syndicated, it was like you could see it anytime you want.
So was it like 6:30 or 7 o'clock? It was beautiful.
So here we go. I found this very interesting and did not know this, and maybe you just know it offhand. But what's the first and last thing the group of friends discuss during the pilot episode and the finale episode.
Talking about the buttons on your coat, on your suit, and this is like, what's the point of that? What's the point of that button? Like, what's it doing there?
There you go. Boom. Nailed it. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So they bring it back at the end, I guess.
Yeah, goes sitting in their jail cell, and they go, look at this. What's going on here? Oh, spoiler alert! They were in jail.
Spoiler
Sorry.
alert, jail cell. Jeez. This took a dark turn. Okay, 1 for 1. All right. Who is Sid and what is his job? Do you remember Sid? He was only in one episode that I've seen so far. I don't know if it comes back or not.
Can you tell me at least what character he interacted with? I'm assuming Kramer.
Mostly George, actually. He was talking in Jerry's apartment with George, and then George ended up attempting to do Sid's job as well.
Oh, was Sid the guy who parked cars?
Sid was the guy who moved cars to alternate sides of the street for street cleaning days.
Yeah, and George tries to do it, and it's just chaos.
It's total chaos. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sid was the parking cars guy.
I'll give you half point for getting a pretty solid hint there. Okay, I got a two-parter for you, and I know you're going to love this one because you've referenced this one before. So, what is the name of Jerry's favorite shirt?
The Golden Boy. I was about to say the puppy shirt.
The puppy shirt is it's a different reference.
I want to be
yes, Golden Boy.
Golden Boy.
Golden Boy. And, of course, when Golden Boy falls apart in the wash, how does Jerry replace him?
Does he go with Baby Blue?
Baby Blue is the different shirt that replaces Golden Boy.
With Baby Blue.
Golden Boy is the shirt that makes it through the wash every time, right? It's
every
always
time.
Never lost. Okay. Well done. How about
I had my Golden Boy Wake Forest ID all 4 years.
You did. You also had the lost shirt days.
Lost shirt. There's Baby Blue.
Baby Blue right here.
Baby Blue.
Oh. Okay. What former child actor does Kramer try to force into reading his script? So I did see this one. Kramer was out in LA.
I do remember him in LA. I do not.
He's in like a coffee shop.
This is gonna be a complete random guess. Was it Fred Savage?
It was Fred Savage.
I don't know why. I literally just pulled that out of my butt, but I was like, why do I feel like I remember him talking to the Wonder Years guy?
Yes, it was Wonder Years star Fred Savage.
Wow. Okay. Whew.
There you go. Number 5, last question. Well done so far. During surgery, what candy is accidentally dropped into Elaine's boyfriend's open abdomen?
Open cavity. They're very refreshing. The Junior Mints. I love the slow motion. Did you see that episode or no?
No, I've not seen that one yet.
For whatever reason, they're sitting in the gallery and like, you want a Junior Mint? And so they're like wrestling over the box, and then one just pops up. They see it slow motion, and it just goes. It's like, all right, time to close them up. They're like, yes, the Junior Mint. They're very refreshing.
The Junior Mint. All right, well done, sir. We'll give you a 4.75 out of 5.
Ooh, 7.5. I'll take it. I'll take the 7.5.
Yeah, I'll give you 3/4 there. All right, well done.
Nice. Good question. Those are all in the essential package. All in the essential.
Oh, good. Good. Okay. So I've come up with out of spite for ESPN not doing the Pigskin Playoff Pick'em, which was actually like a prop bet game.
Yeah, it was
where
like
you talk about it wasn't just like who's going to win the game. It was like
it's like who's going to have more receiving yards. It was like Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase for the field and stuff like that. It was great.
Yes.
I loved it.
And so I feel like I've done a really good job of recreating this. So I will just record our answers and we'll just keep track. How about that?
That works for me.
Question number 1. Over under. This is an over under for Brock Purdy passing touchdowns. Set the bar at 1.5. And some of these stats I pulled from DraftKings Sportsbook, so they're legit. Over under 1.5 passing touchdowns for Brock Purdy this week.
I'm gonna go with the over. I think he's gonna get around 2, max 3, but I think he's gonna get the over.
I think he'll have exactly 2. I'm also taking the over.
Okay. I'll read the next one so you do first.
Okay.
All right. Do Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert combine for 4+ passing touchdowns?
So that is 4 or more. I think this is what I meant by 4+ because they're both at 1.5 over unders. This is a tough one because I mentioned those defenses are solid, but I do feel like both of these teams score most of their touchdowns through the air. I don't think there's a lot of rushing touchdowns for either of these teams. So, first playoff game for both these guys, I'm going to go over.
I say
I'm
nay.
going to say yes. Yes, they get 4+. Yes. How
I
about
say
yes?
no. I say nay.
Okay. I think no is a pretty solid guess too, honestly, but I'm going to have faith in my boy, T-Law. Okay. Who has, and this is more similar to Picks and Playoff Pick'em, who has the most passing yards on Saturday's games? Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, Geno Smith.
For me, it's going to be between Herbert and Geno. And I just feel like Geno's going to be coming from behind. Herbert, I just feel like, is going to have a big performance in general. I'm going to go with Herbert.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right guess here. I don't think Geno against San Fran. I don't think so. So I'm going to go Herbert as well.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to Sunday's games.
Does Stephon Diggs score a touchdown? Yay or nay? You're first.
I'm first. I'm going to go with yes. I think Josh Allen is going to get his weapons involved and set the tone for the playoffs. I'm going to go yes on Stephon.
I will go yes as well. I think that is a solid bet, especially against a struggling Miami defense.
Okay. There you go. Okay, this is an over-under for Tyreek Hill. Number of receptions, I'm putting it at 5.5 over-under. So in his last 6 games, he has had 2, 4, 4, 9, 4, 9.
I'm going to go under. Just don't have much faith in Skylar Thompson. I feel like it could be like a Jalen Waddle game. So I'm going to go under.
Yeah, he's had like 6 to 7-ish targets with Skylar Thompson's last couple of games. They're not connecting on all of them. I think if they have any chance here, he's got to have more than that. But I'm kind of with you. Like, I don't know. Maybe there's like a playoff Tyreek. I don't know. I'm going to go under, but about talked myself into over.
You were this close. All right. Over under Justin Jefferson, 91.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, this is a big question mark for me because, as I mentioned, he lit him up the first time they played. They've got to have a different plan for him. And the last 2 games the Vikings have played, teams have put the clamps on him a little bit. You know, he's definitely been under this mark. So the question is, do the Giants have the personnel to do it? I'm going to go with under on this one.
Oh, surprising. I'm actually going to go over.
Yeah, I think the Vikings can win by Hawkinson, who also had a monster game against the Giants. I think they can win with Hawkinson and KJ Osborne and use Jefferson as a chain mover and also taking away double coverage.
See, I view it as, has he been in the playoffs yet? Because they didn't make the playoffs last year. Did they make it the year before? Anyway, irregardless is not a word. Regardless, I just think, once the playoffs hit, but you see it in basketball, your rotation shortens. You go to your guys who got you there, and they're gonna get this man the ball. So I think he's gonna be over.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's going to be that could be the strategy initially. I think it depends on how the Giants react.
All right.
Okay, so does my boy Jamar Chase score a touchdown? Next question.
Yes, he will score a touchdown. He's due, and I think all the Bengals want to stick it to the Ravens. Did I say all the Bengals? In my head, it didn't sound like I said Bengals. Did I say
You
Bengals?
did say Bengals.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he scored against them last week, so I would say he's due so much that I would just say he's the man, and I'm going to go yes as well.
He's the man.
He's a freaking stud, and he's been banged up a little bit throughout the year, kind of been in and out of the lineup. But when the playoffs hit, I think you're going to see Jamar just take over.
Okay. All right. Who has the most receiving yards on Sunday? First of all, you did 6 choices. Lame.
Well, I did 5. I did 5 in the field.
The field is a choice.
Okay, fine.
So you go Tyreek. I couldn't think of his first name. Jalen Waddle, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, or said field.
Yeah, there's just too many good guys. That's why I wanted to make sure I hit all the best players out there. Otherwise, I'd be like, leave one of them or two of them off, and you'd be like, I'll take the field because you've left off Waddle and Diggs or something, you know? I'm going to go with Chase on this one.
Ooh, okay.
I know he's like Baltimore doesn't give up like 150-yard receivers necessarily, and so not that I totally expect that, but other than Jefferson, if anyone's got the chance here, I think it's Jamar.
Okay.
I would have said Tyreek if Tua was playing because I think you
Right.
force feed him, and I think he's as explosive as anybody. But I really think Jamar is as explosive as Tyreek at this point, almost.
Fair.
Almost. I would say.
I was going between Diggs and Jefferson, and I'm just going to double down on JJ just because, again, you got to feed your horse. He's the one who got you there, and you got to leave it all on the field. And let's say you didn't, if you lose this game and it was because you weren't getting Jefferson the ball, that's going to be the main headline. So they're going to get him the ball.
That's fair, but it's also a first-year coach, so it's not like he's like on the hot seat.
Oh, it's hot.
It's real hot.
It's super hot.
All right, let's move on to Monday then. We're going to highlight some running backs here a little bit. Does Zeke score a touchdown?
He always somehow scores a touchdown. He'll have like 40 yards, but a touchdown. So sure, jerk.
He's the best odds on the anytime touchdown score, which is why I chose him specifically. I'm going to go no.
I'm going to go no.
Yeah, I'm going to go no. I agree he's the most likely, and if they get in close, he'll punch it in because he's a freaking touchdown maker. But the Bucs run defense is legit, and I think this will be, I don't know, call me crazy. I think it'll be a lower scoring game.
You crazy.
You crazy. I'm crazy.
All right. Over under Tom Brady and Dak Prescott combined for 518.5 yards.
Yeah, this is just taking they're two different yardage props and throwing them together. I'm going to go with under on this one. I know that Brady has been throwing for 300 several games in a row here, or maybe not in a row, but like he's hit over 300. He's been throwing more this year than any other year I can remember, like 50 attempts a game kind of thing. So I think he can get to 300 probably, but I also think both these defenses are good. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it
going over. Let it fly. Let it fly. It's over.
So Brady's at like 270.5 or so, and Dak's around 240, 248 or something like that. So, which I thought was kind of low for him, but then again, he hasn't been throwing up a ton of yardage either. They've been more efficient than they have been just airing it out. So, we'll see.
Air raid. Let it go.
Okay, another over-under for you, and it's on receptions, but it's for running back. Will Leonard Fournette over under 5.5 receptions in his last 5 games? 4, 9, 4, 6, 6.
Leonard, old uncle. I'm gonna go with the over here. I just think it's going to be a pass-heavy game for whatever reason, and he's a great safety valve and a great catch you 5-6 yards each time. And if they need him to move it, he'll do it. So I'm going to go over.
So that means 6 or more receptions. Yeah, this is a tough over-under because I think right at 5 is about where I'd probably land on him. If you get pressure on Brady, he's going to have to dump it off early, which is why Fournette has so many receptions anyway. Micah Parsons can get pressure on Brady. That's going to be a problem for this game. So I'm with you. I'm going to go over. That's a high number, but he's done it, 3 of the last 5. So it's doable for sure.
Okay. All right. And then who has the most rushing yards on Moon Day? Zeke, Pollard, Fournette, Rashad White, or the field?
Yeah, this is tough. I would say if anyone has a shot to break one, it's Pollard. And so for that reason, I'm going to go Pollard, but they could all be under 50, honestly. So
yeah, I too had Tony Pollard. Just for that reason alone, just he's the more explosive of those two, and Tampa just has not been running the ball.
They can't run the ball. Yeah,
so
they can't run the ball.
Tony, the
all right,
Tiger.
Well, feel free to play along at home and score yourself.
He was a Memphis Tiger. Tony said Tiger.
That's true. We have a bunch different though. That's good.
Yeah, we had a lot different.
I don't know how I feel though because you were 700th in the world last year, so you're probably gonna smoke me.
700th in the world, Kemper. Watch out. Dang. Okay. So previewed all the games starting on Saturday with Seahawks, Niners, and Chargers, Jags. I'm pumped. I mean, again, it was crazy that there are a lot of kind of coin flips on some of these matchups. A lot of people are expecting the Vikings to be upset. Chargers, Jags are up in the air. Even the Niners are a little on upset watch. But I mean, that's the beauty of the playoffs, I think, is just that anything can happen and just the stakes are that much raised. So I love playoff football. I'm pumped it's here. Watching a lot of games. So with all that being said, until next time, keep on folding.
Fold it.